guys, today I figured I will show you my Project Pamporn finale. It's the end of the year and I got done with the last two palettes I was working on. I was trying just to hit pan on those palettes, and my goal throughout the year was to work on two palettes every month, and those two palettes, one is the older ones from my collection and one is the newer ones from my collection, and my goal is only to hit pan on them. Once I hit pan on one shade, or of course multiple in each palette, I would just roll that palette out and roll in something else in its place, so that way I can go through as many palettes as possible in a year. And I did bring all of the palettes that I went through this year. I think I went through 14 total, so that's great. But let's start with the two palettes I was working on last month first, and I want to show you where I am at with those two. So last month I was working on Lorac Pro. This one represented one of my oldest palettes. I've had this for a little while. I didn't use it a ton, and I just figured it's a good time to use it. So this palette, honestly, I was trying to use it as more of a companion palette, and I wanted to use the matte shades more, and that is what I did. I definitely concentrated on three shades very consistently almost every day. One is cream. I use cream to set my primers every day, and I use taupe or mauve to do the transition. Depends on the look that I do. I would either go for a brownish look or a little bit more pinker toned look. So that's the two I will go for. But surprisingly, I did not hit pan on any of the three shades yet. You definitely see the dips in them. I hope you can tell from taupe and mauve. You can definitely see the dip. Cream here, the dip is a little wider, so it's less obvious. But I also used some shimmery shades here and there, not very often. I mainly use champagne every once in a while to highlight my brow bone or inner corner, and sometimes I would use garnet to do my outer V. And I feel garnet is probably the most powdery out of all the shades that I worked on, and that's why I hit pan on it. Doesn't mean that I used it the most though, it just went down a little faster. So this palette, I think after using it I think I've used it for 2 months in this project, and I do think this is a very stable, good palette, and I'm really glad I kind of rediscovered it, and you cannot go wrong with it, I feel. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm gonna put it back in my collection and maybe come back to it someday again. And the other palette I was working on is my ColourPop Golden State of Mind palette. I got this palette a little while back, but I never really used it until now. I just put it in this project last month, and last month when I put it in, I have told you guys my initial kind of like first impression with the palette wasn't all that great. It was just a little bit more on the chunkier side. Well, if you don't know, this palette was a Sephora exclusive, and it has 15 shades in it, and all 15 shades are shimmery shades, or kind of pressed glitter shades, no mattes at all. So I figured it would be a good companion palette to go with Lorac Pro because it has a lot of stable mattes here. Anyways, after using it for a month, I kind of just decided I want to give up on it. I don't care for the shades in here, honestly. And you can see here, I do not have pan in anything, and I think I have really mixed feelings about this palette. There are a few shades that are pretty good. I really like this reddish toned color called Uptight, and I really like this berried looking one. This color is called Heads or Tails. I really like those two, and I think there are a couple of really good ones here. I really like this one, and this one is Drizzle. So like, this palette isn't all duds, you know. I just don't care for it, and at the same time, if you look at this palette, I don't think any shades was particularly super unique. So I've decided I might as well just give it to someone that doesn't have a lot of makeup, so that way they can enjoy this palette and maybe just try to get some use out of it. And for me, I think I've just gotten a little bit more pickier about my makeup, and yes, you can use the palette wet, yes, you can use a cream eyeshadow underneath, and I just feel ColourPop has done better, and I don't want to struggle with it. I have way more, like, just better palettes in my collection. Why am I trying so hard to work this, and the color payoff is terrible, it has tons of fallout, and I just don't care for it, you know? And the only thing, if you notice, I actually popped out one shade out of here because all of the ColourPop palettes are magnetized pens, so you can easily take them out and put it somewhere. I put it in my little self-made palette, and that shade is Golden Egg. I should have brought it here, but I really think that's the only kind of unique shade in this palette because it's kind of like a duochrome color from a very pinkish taupe to a green kind of shimmer. So I really like that shade and I think it performed well. So that's the only one I'm gonna keep, and I will pass this palette on to someone else. So like I said, this year I went through 14 palettes total, and I actually decided to declutter 4 of them, and this one, Golden State Mind, is my, one palette that I am gonna declutter. And I have 3 other palettes that I have already decluttered and I don't have them to show you, obviously. I'm just gonna tell you what they are. I had a Laura Mercier customized little quad. You could customize each shade in it, so it wasn't like a whole palette. So because that palette doesn't have a name, I wouldn't be able to tell you what it is, but I will show you a picture what it looks like. And that palette, honestly, to me was just very underwhelming. The colors, they just exist in basically any palette nowadays, so I just figured there was no need for me to keep it. And then there was a little quad from Loreal, and that one, I'm sure it's been long discontinued. The quad's name is called Rose for Romance, and that one had a lot of glittery shades, chunky fallout, no payoff. It's very similar story to the Golden State of Mind palette from ColourPop, so I decluttered that one. And then the last palette I decluttered was from Elle. It was a limited edition Disney collab kind of palette. It had a lot of interesting shades, but it wasn't too super unique to my collection. And I just feel I have repeats and I just didn't care much for it at the end of the day. So I decluttered that one too. I think that palette is called An Enchanted Tale. So I decluttered 4 palettes, which means I still have 10 that I decided to keep, even though I hit pan on shades, because I do realize they're good palettes and I'm glad I kind of rediscovered them. So let me go through those 10 palettes real quick. First of all, I have 2 Marc Jacobs palette. They're both from the Style Icon number 7 line, and I have the color Enigma and the color The Dreamer. I do like both palettes. I do think I have a preference though. I like the Dreamer just slightly better than the Enigma. The quality of those palettes are great. I think it's just the color combination works for me better in the Dreamer, because you can see this one is a warm neutral toned palette and it's just so easy to use on everyday basis, and I hit pan on this shade and this shade, so I'm happy about that, and I'm gonna keep this one because it's just, like I said, such high quality, easy to use palette. The other one, the Enigma, is also very good quality, but I think the color is just a little harder for me to use because you can see it has some more colorful shades that I don't really touch on a regular basis. But I did hit pan on 2 shades as well, and they are the ones that I use more often. One is this deeper taupe shade and one is this matte pink shade. It's a little hard to see, but hopefully you saw the pan in those. I think this one is also really good. I just probably wouldn't be able to use it as often as the Dreamer. I have a few smaller palettes. One is a dual, 2 are trails. So the dual I really loved. This one is from Bare Minerals. The dual is called the Guilty Pleasures, and it really just has 2 shades and they are so good. They're easy to blend. They work perfect for my skin tone. They just make any look put together. I can even just go with 2 shades and be done with a look. It's amazing. I love this not quad, duo. I'm even tempted to get more of the Bare Minerals palettes in this formula because this is my first try for any Bare Minerals eyeshadows and I was just so impressed with it. And then the 2 little trails that I have are both from Wet n Wild. They are the Color Icon trails. I think one is a limited edition one, the other one is not. The Knock on Wood right here, I believe you can get it all the time, but I think they changed the packaging now. Anyways, this one I just hit pan on the bottom shade right here. This one is definitely a little bit on the older side for me now, so it's a little bit more powdery. I hit pan on it fairly fast. But I do enjoy the color combination in here. I think they're easy to use. For drugstore, the price that they're offering, you can't go wrong with that. And the other one, this is a limited edition, I believe, and it's called Spoiled Army Brat. It's very pink tone leaning, and I love this trail. It's really easy to use. I have pan in 2 shades, and it's just so good. Very easy to use. Another Wet n Wild palette that I have here, such an oldie but goodie. Like, I've had this is probably my oldest palette in my collection, like the oldest. This is the Comfort Zone, of course, and they changed the packaging now, and I haven't tried the new packaging because I have the old one, obviously, and I have quite a few pans. You can tell this one is getting a little bit more powdery too, just because it's getting older, but man, this is so good. I remember when I tried to use this palette, when I hit pan on 4 shades, I still didn't want to roll it out because it was that good. It gives you the warm neutral tones, and you have a pop of green. It just looked good, you know. I love this palette. I really hope I can come back and try to pan it even. There are the bottom 3 shades here, well, the bottom 2, this one, the deepest brown, and this deepest green. I don't care for those 2. They're just like really muddy and dark. This is just such a good palette, and if you've never tried it, you really should, because I mean, it's like, what, $5.99? Can't go wrong with that. And then I have 2 ColourPop palettes, and I actually did really enjoy both of them. So even after I hit pan on some shades, I decided to keep both of them. The first one is the ColourPop Yes Please palette. This one, I really enjoyed it, but I don't think I like it as much as everyone else hyped it. Like, it wasn't that good for me, but still I think it's a good palette. I do really like the looks I can come up with this palette. They're warm toned, and I don't know, I think warm tone looks just look pretty good on me. But my complaint to this one is that some shades do look a little bit too similar on my eyes. I wish it's like a 9-pan palette. If they just take out a couple of the repeating shades, I think it would be even easier to use. But the quality is great. I love this palette. Yeah, I hit pan on just 1 shade right here because that is a pressed glitter, I believe. It's just a little bit more crumbly compared to the rest of the shades, so I hit pan on that one pretty fast. And then the other palette I have from ColourPop is All I See Is Magic palette. This one is a little bigger. It's a 15-pan palette. This one is a little bit more on the colorful side, and also a little bit more on the deeper side if you pay attention to it, because you really just have like 2 lighter shades and a few mid-tone shades, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, those are mid-tone shades. The rest of them are pretty deep, like if you go down the middle row. So that kind of surprised me a little bit when I start using it, because when I first saw it, I think maybe the packaging kind of was a little deceiving too, because it's like a lighter aqua blue. It made me think of spring, and that's when I used this palette, and I was like, it's so deep. But regardless, I think this one is a really good palette. The color is a little deeper. It's probably better to be used in the fall and winter, but the quality is there. It's a good palette. I hit pan on 2 shades right down here, those 2. So I like this palette. I'm gonna continue to use it. And also you can see that I like those 2 palettes, and they have a lot of shimmery shades, and compared to the Golden State of Mind, the quality is just not the same. So why bother to keep this one? And I don't understand why ColourPop would put a palette out there like this one, because obviously they can do better, you know? Anyways, and the very last palette that I have here is my Anastasia Beverly Hills Prism palette. I rolled this palette out last month, actually. It was a recent purchase for me. I was really excited when I first got it, but honestly, I was really disappointed at this palette. So you can see I have pan in 2 shades, 3 shades actually, 2 mattes and 1 shimmer down here. And my complaint to this palette is that the shimmers are really just not there, because they barely have any color payoff. they have a lot of fallout, and the fallout continues to fall throughout the day, and they would just fall down underneath my eyes, on my glasses, everywhere. It's super annoying, and I'm not about that. And they get heart pan very, very easily, and I just think they did something weird to their formula. I'm not crazy about that. Their mattes are great though, and they are definitely powdery. I hit pan on those two shades in a month, and the dents are pretty deep, significant, you know? But I don't mind that. If it just goes through fast, it's fine because it still looks great on my eyes. So I don't know. I think for this palette, my goal is to just try to work on the mattes, and once I'm done with those, I'm just gonna toss the palette. I'm not gonna try to waste my energy on the shimmery shades. So now you can see all the 14 palettes that I went through this year. I was super happy with this project. I thought it was such a success. I really enjoy this method to go through my collection kind of in depth. I mean, I have, this is probably like a third of my palette collection, but still I went through my collection faster than all the 2-3 years before. So I was super happy about it. I think I want to do this again next year. It let me see what I have in my collection and what works, what didn't, and I could declutter some of the things I don't care for and keep the ones that I really enjoy. So I think it's a success. I really loved it. I hope you guys enjoyed it too throughout the year. I will have the playlist linked down below if you are interested to see how I actually went through each palette each month. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give me a like and also subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys for watching. Bye.